Hi, I'm Justin Evergreen, and today I wanted to talk to you about a problem that really we all face as coaches, consultants, info businesses, and experts really of any kind, and that is it's so difficult to scale yourself. Now, why is that? Well, really it comes down to we're doing so many different jobs within our company, right? So all of the content ideas come for us. We have to create the content, all the videos, format and redistribute it, the ad ideas, the ad angles, the ad creation. It all comes down to us. Then there's answering DMs and creating the content within the product, whether that's, courses, communities, whatever it may be. Then there's sales calls, client emails, client calls, and then follow up and DMs and all of the different stuff that comes along, the pre and post sales process, right? So there's a lot going on for just literally one person and a small team to do. And so where that really affects things is really the output, our output as a company and output as individuals, right? So let's kind of look at an ideal scenario, right? So we get out a new sort of piece of training content or long form course content, or a long form like Loom video within the community. We get out one of those per week. That's pretty good. We get out one tweet per day. That's pretty good. 3 Instagram posts. Also publish those on Facebook. A long form YouTube video for, different followers and to bring in different leads. TikTok video, LinkedIn post, 3 to 5 new ads or ad angles, 1 to 3 emails or email newsletter. 20 plus, responses to prospective clients that are DMing you when they saw your ad or your content, and at least 40, let's just say, call it 40 to 100 responses to your current clients, your clients in your community that you're, of course, helping. So again, this is an ideal week where you're actually touching all these different channels and you're able to get all this out, even while maintaining, helping, and helping your clients and your community get the result ultimately that they're looking for. So let's say you do all that. That actually still only boils down to about 40 to 50 original pieces of content per month. And like I said, on average, that's pretty good. But when we put that in context and compare it to the top 1%, let's say, within the industry, you're looking at someone like Alex Hormozi. He's literally putting out 10 times that amount of original content per month. So how does he do that? Well, he easily tells you his strategy and he tells you the cost. He spends about $50K a month on his content team. That doesn't include Layla Hormozi, where they have another content team. So just his content, his channels, Twitter, YouTube, Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, that's $50K a month, right? On a team of like 5, I think he said. So that's pretty good, as far as like the amount of volume going out. And then you look at someone like Gary Vee, basically, the godfather of content creation. And he's putting out even more pieces of content. He's always been upfront with how he does it, and his cost as well. So, he says I spend well into 7 figures on my content team, per year, right? So why do they do this? It's not just to entertain us or to help us. Ultimately, they get a result, and Alex Hormozi just said in a recent video, we have a 1-to-1 ratio, basically 10x the content output made it 10x the growth rate. So that's why he does that. It's the results, the growth, and there's a 1-to-1 ratio from the amount of content he puts out to the growth rate of his sort of following and community, right? And impressions and ultimately awareness of him and things that he can help with and has to offer. So let's look at a funnel kind of from the ground up, and look at, a typical coaching, consulting, info business type of funnel, right? So it starts with impressions that lead to clicks, leads or opt-ins, and, ultimately a percentage of those book into calls, and then ultimately a percentage of those become clients, right? So, whenever you think about the conversation around the coaching and consulting funnel and all of the people making content around it, it almost always focuses on either like CPA or client acquisition, or, bookings and, not as much on leads, but it used to focus on leads a lot more. But really everything's on the right side of the funnel, ultimately is what people are promising to help you with. That's why you hire agencies, etc. But when you really boil this down to first principles, it really all comes back to impressions. And that's really what paid and organic and social content have in common. That's the joint metric. That's the original metric. It's the thing you have to start with. No one really talks much about like how many impressions did I get in their ads manager, but ultimately that's how it starts. That's really what you're buying. That's what you're paying for when you run ads. So when we think about scaling, it has to start there. Or if we think about reducing ad spend, it has to start there. So like I said, there's only really two kinds. There's organic and paid. If you want to increase paid, it's pretty easy. You increased ad spend, right? And you horizontally scale it, et cetera, et cetera. But if you wanted to increase scale and increase impressions without ad spend or, with less ad spend, then you need organic impressions. The only way to do that is to increase the content output. And remember, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. The more you put out, the more impressions that you will get. So let's just say, for the sake of this video, that our idea here is we're going to increase output versus just vertically scaling ad spend as much as possible, right? Maybe there could be a blend of the two. So if we want to increase output to do what others are successfully doing, there's really two choices. And both are painful, which is why there is a top 1% like Gary Vee and Alex Hormozi and others, and the 99% sits under that. And really it's because there's two limiting factors. One, time. It's really not even realistic, but let's just say you worked 24/7 on making content. You could perhaps get that much content out. And likely what would happen, even if you did just, let's say, 18-hour days, what would happen is the other parts of your business would suffer. And ultimately, all coaches and consultants and all of us really prioritize existing clients, existing client results. And that's really the way it should be. And, ultimately, that takes up a lot of time. And so, the thing that suffers is the output of content for the top of the funnel, right? So there literally just isn't enough time for one person to put out that much content and serve their clients effectively. So that leaves you with number two, which is what Gary Vee and Alex Hormozi and others have done, is money. So you hire a large content team. So, Alex Hormozi is doing one per channel, basically 5 different people. Let's say they each make $10K a month. $50K a month for a content team, it can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. Especially for like the 99% of coaches and consultants that aren't putting out that much content as they are, right? So, but what if there was a third option? And what if we could combine everything about you that makes you with AI and technology to actually scale output? And the way you would do that is to literally create an AI version of you. An AI version of you doesn't have the same limitations. It doesn't cost as much as a content team. It isn't bound by the clock. It doesn't have all those other responsibilities that you have, and it can actually generate content at scale. So we're calling that UAI. So what is that? What is an AI version of you, and what do we mean by that? So let's talk about you first. Like, what makes you you? So what makes you an expert? Why do people even sign up for your courses and communities or hire you for consulting? Well, really, you are the aggregate of all of your experience, all of your inputs, all of your influences, all of the things that you've tried and failed, tried and succeeded, all of the conversations you've had with your clients over the years, all of the content you've created, and all of the content you've consumed. Literally, you are this like giant aggregate, and that's what makes you your own personality, your own tone of voice. Everything that when you put out content, it has your spin on it. It goes through your ultimate like content filter, right? So when you create content, that's why it's unique. That's why it's special. That's why people want to consume it. That's why people sign up. That's why people, stay with you and work with you for years and years. It's you. What makes you you? That's the number one ingredient. That's really the whole thing. The problem is scaling it. So how do we do that? So literally to scale you out, we're going to train an AI on you. So all of those inputs, all of those influences, all of the outputs that you've done, all of your experience, all of that needs to be put into a training format that we can then train an AI algorithm to generate content that's indistinguishable from you. How do we create content by you, but you not creating it? The way to do that is we need to train an AI thoroughly on you. And now when it creates content, it doesn't just create content from the internet or generic content or answer questions generically. It answers them as you would answer them. It creates tweets as you would create them. It creates TikTok videos as you would create them. And that's really the power, because now we've taken it out of your manual hands to create, but all of the ingredients that make you are still there. So that's really where the opportunity lies. And then lastly, we combine that with automated output. So we don't want just one video. We already make one video now, or one YouTube video a week, or one TikTok video, or whatever it is, or one tweet per day. We want 10 times that amount, literally 10 times that amount at least. So the way we're going to do that is we'll automate and create 10 times the volume. You don't have to be at your computer. It can create content while you sleep. It can create content while you're, playing with your kids, while you're sleeping, while you're eating, while you're off work for the weekend. Content is still being created. That automated output is what allows for the volume. And then when you combine these three things, you plus a trained AI on you and automated output, that's really where you are able to create something that's, superhuman. It's beyond you. It's beyond what you could create alone by yourself. So, as I said, the UAI, the goal is it creates content that's indistinguishable from you. You can't tell the difference. If you put two tweets side by side or two TikTok scripts side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference which one was written by you manually or which one was auto-written by an AI. And then the second piece is an output volume that far exceeds what you could do. I think to get to where we're talking about Alex Hormozi or Gary Vee, we're talking about 10x, 20x, 30x times the amount of content. But this doesn't have a limit. You can go beyond that, 50x, 100x of the amount of content that you currently create, right? So that's really where you're going from you manual to UAI. So not only will it be the same as if you created it, but there'll be just so much more. And so let's say it's not just in numbers, like number of tweets or number of videos, but the more you're able to do. So, a lot of times people say, well, just concentrate on one channel, just do one channel well, just do YouTube or just do Twitter or just do email or whatever it is. But, that's not what the top 1% do. Gary Vee says the answer is always and. It's always and TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, etc. And if you look at their actions, they don't just say it, that's actually what they do. So this allows you to really thrive on all of the channels versus having to sort of choose which one you'll concentrate on. So this kind of illustrates that where ultimately what we'll have is a model that has a different version of you for Twitter, the way that it writes tweets, a different version of you that's trained to write LinkedIn posts, YouTube videos, shorts, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, emails, responding to questions via text or over Slack. Ultimately touching you, now UAI touches the whole ecosystem, in combination with you, right? So not only is it creating content, it's answering questions, it's providing support, all without the biological limitations of like the clock or your effort, but ultimately, on demand whenever people want it. So, as I said, it really scales out the potential impact of you. So, going from, like we said at the beginning, an ideal scenario, really like what would be considered successful by today's standards is an individual coach or consultant getting out that 40 to 50 pieces of content per month. But what we're talking about is at least 10 times that, where we're talking about 500 to 2,000 or more original pieces of content per month across every channel. No limitation, no choosing. No, I didn't get to it yesterday because I was busy, or this emergency happened. All of it is just being created, generating content, really at will. And what that does is it puts you in the 1%. To even consider saying, okay, we're going to be in the 1% of impact, or the 1% of, the 1% of impact, or the 1% of awareness of our coaching and consulting, is really unrealistic if you're putting out 10 times less, or even less than that, content across the ecosystem. It just isn't going to happen. Like, you're not on pace for that. This puts you in the game. This puts you in the top 1% of content creation, the top 1% of output, and the top 1% of awareness and impressions. Now we're getting the same amount of impressions that they're getting over time. And so that's really the power of it. You open any channel on your phone and you'll see one of these two guys, right? And a handful of other people. It's not magic. It's not because they're saying something you can't say or doing something you can't do. What they're doing is they're putting out so much content that it's almost always going to be in your feed. And that's really the opportunity that we're talking about today. So we're talking about scaling your output, and let's think about and talk about what the effect that would have on your ecosystem, and sort of boil it down into something that we can track. So as I said, from first principles and awareness, we're talking about impressions. We're talking about the aggregate of organic impressions plus paid impressions. That will go up. And it has a trickle-down effect on the rest of the funnel: clicks, leads, bookings, clients, etc. But by doing that, you have sort of this inverse relation here, where you have ad spend. The ad spend needed would go down. And then the metrics around paid, so cost per impression, total cost per impression, if you combine those, is actually now less, thus bringing down cost per lead, cost per client acquisition, and then ultimately your unseen costs around time and your time constraints go down, but also tangibly even team costs, right? So your current team cost or potential team cost, if you were to try to scale this out through hiring a big team, you now don't have that cost, right? And all of this has sort of a final effect on net. So, revenue, gross profit, net profit, free cash flow, and ultimately the time that it gives back to you should have and will have a direct impact on retention, because you have now more time to work on the business, to make the business better, so that ultimately your clients are getting better and better results more often, right? So these are all the metrics that not only can be affected, but should be tracked as a form of just scaling the output at the top of the business funnel. It's not just the marketing funnel, it's really the total business funnel. If we scale the output at the top, you'll have a trickle-down effect on the rest of the business. All right, so what are we talking about as a solution, and how do we do this? So what we've created is UAI is a mastermind. And what we want you to do is imagine a mastermind that focuses on these things. Number one, scale. Exclusively helping high-ticket info business owners, course creators, coaches, consultants scale themselves and their impact using AI. AI training and automation. Using unique AI training methods, we're going to show you exactly how to create that UAI that has all of the ingredients of your personality, so that the output is exactly what you would want and indistinguishable from you. We'll do that using OpenAI and automation. So the combination of those two things, the training of the you and the automated output, is where you get basically you at scale, or UAI. So then output, as I said, so exponentially increasing the output will have the effect on impressions and impact across all socials and sales channels and client support. So every piece of the business we're really trying to attack with this scaling you mentality, right? And this methodology. And then think of it as generative avatars, right? So it's not just like generative content where we're not just like writing a headline, but ultimately we're trying to create avatars of you across the ecosystem. for videos, for chat, for email, for ads, for support, for images, for text, for tweets. Everything can have sort of this trained avatar of you. Instead of manual you, it's a trained avatar of you that's actually generating content, unlimited. And then really all of this, and what we want to build a community of, is everybody that's really after this, new way, really AI arbitrage. And really it's something that's only recently become even possible to make it a reasonable business strategy to replace you with technology, right? It's never really been something that was able to be seriously attempted, because the technology just wasn't there, and we were all basically constrained by, our own personal limitations. But now we're not. And so really what we want to do is this leverage, this high leverage, high output, high arbitrage that's never really been available, where we spend a little bit of time training something that generates a lot of content and a lot of impact. And so it's a year-long program, and it's a year-long mastermind, but we're going to start with 6 weeks to really get from basically where you are right now to this is all up and running and impacting your business quickly. So week 1 is training your personal AI model. It has to start with that. We have to train it. That's the only way. Nothing really works unless you've trained an AI on you. It has to be you, exactly as, it has to know what you know. And it has to have the influences and the inputs that you've had. So that's week 1. Week 2 is a feedback loop to refine that. We want to refine that content output, refine that model until it's indistinguishable for you, from you. So ultimately what we're trying to do is make it so that it's, you really can't tell, like I said, side by side, 2 scripts, 2 tweets, 2 videos, you can't tell the difference. Week 3, so, 1000x. So automated content creation and distribution across your channels, right? Ultimately, again, we're back to that high leverage where we're doing a little bit of work at the beginning to generate an automated output without our time, right? Week 4, superhuman video output at scale. This is really where it starts to get interesting, because ultimately, one of the things that makes, the top 1%, like Gary Vee and Alex Hormozi and others, all over the place seeming, is because their use of video. You literally open TikTok and within the first 5 videos, one of them shows up, right? So there's so much video content. We'll show you how to do that, and we're not going to go for 1 video a week that we currently make, hopefully every week. A lot of times you don't end up making it that week, to hundreds of videos per week. Ultimately now exponentially increasing your odds of being in that feed when you open TikTok or YouTube Shorts. Week 5, 24/7, and that's really around training your UAI on client support, right? So there's so many times, within our businesses where we're answering something for like the 11th time, or the 111th. So, and that's just always going to be the case. There's, new people coming in, people forget, people ask questions over time, things change, etc. Ultimately, again, it's all in your brain. We just have to get it out of your brain into a trained UA model and a UAI model. And ultimately, they can help not totally replace, but certainly take a dent out of client support, beyond the fact that they can just be available on the weekends and at nights without you actually having to be there. Week 6, sales. So ultimately, there's kind of the pre-call and the post-call. Both of those can be attacked by a UAI. And so, it's almost like paper cuts, right? Like a lot of these like pre-call DMs, or, people that haven't even booked yet and they're asking all these questions. And so there's so many of those. And as you scale your output, there'll be more of those, right? So we want to send them and funnel them to a place where they can get questions answered and ultimately lead to more bookings, convert them to bookings. And that's what a trained AI can do. And then also, within our business, I think everyone would agree that, there's a certain amount of early adopters that sign up right away. And there's a bunch of people that take 2 or 3 weeks or even 2 or 3 months or a year to sign up. And ultimately, let's give them a place where, as they continue to think about it, as questions come up, they can get the answers without having to do 9 different follow-up calls and 30 different emails to answer those questions, when the questions can be answered ultimately by a trained AI instead of manual you. So that's really how we'll start. And then over the course of the year, at this point, AI technology is moving in such a rapid pace that what's possible in the next few months will be, just totally dominated by what's possible in the next 9 months or the next 2 years. And so ultimately, this has a very lab and R&D development feel where we're definitely aiming for just scaling ourselves at the beginning, but ultimately open to new things that will come into play that can even continue to scale us even further while reducing manual time and effort. And that's ultimately the North Star of the entire program is how do we make an AI version of us that's just as good as us, but 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more effective than we are by ourselves. So, as I said, it's a 1-year access to an exclusive member group. Each week, we're doing 2-hour collaboration calls, not just with myself, but with all the network of founders and other coaches and consultants that are all doing the exact same thing. We're all trying to scale our output. And then, all the direct access to cutting edge AI tools and APIs, and some that we've even created ourselves to help make this simpler, faster, stronger when it comes to training and automation. And we really focus on those two things because that's the whole game. That's what makes UAI. And so, like I said, it's a network of elite founders and coaches and consultants. I'm leading it, Justin Evergreen, and my team of not only content creation experts, but also developers. And so again, the whole thing is about improving and leveraging AI to scale our output. So all kinds of strategies and tools have already been developed and will be developed over the course of the year as we continue to sort of take advantage of this arbitrage opportunity that's really here for all of us. So next step, if this is something that's interesting to you and this is something that you've always kind of felt was a problem and you intuitively know that it is and it has always been kind of a limiter, this could be really interesting to you and could definitely help you scale out your impact and scale out what you already do, authentically. So if there's something you're interested in, schedule the strategy session with us below, and we'll take you through more details about the program and try to understand, where you are and what you're trying to accomplish and how AI and specifically UAI can help bridge that gap and put you in that top 1% of output. All right, talk to you soon.